All the reports we've created to date have involved using the report wizard. It's now time to create a report without the wizard and manage it all by yourself. We firstly go to Create, come across to the Reports section, and then either Report Design or Blank Report will give us a blank report. The first step is to drop into Design View so that you can then control paper that the report will use. This is my report. The printable area is this dotted area, and I can expand or contract that as I see fit. Let's just close the field list for the moment while we set the page up. First thing to do is the size. So we're going with A4, that's fine. We could change from portrait to landscape, which will give us more room. Now in the size, it says that A4 is 8.27 inches by 11.69. I'm now landscape, so I have 11.69 width to play with, but I need to take off the margins. So let's have a look at the margins. They're normal. So that's 1/4 inch on each side. So that's 1/2 inch to take off the width, which leaves me just over 11 inches. So I can now drag the right hand side of the paper to 11 inches. Let's just close the navigation pane. So 11. It is actually 11 a little bit, but we'll stop at 11. So that's the width of my report. Within the report, there are a number of bands. There's the page header. Anything we place in here will appear at the top of every page. There is the detail section, which will repeat for every single record. So let's just move that up. So we've got a very narrow detail section because I want a landscape report that will write out all of my customers, but quite tight together. Then a page footer, and that will appear at the bottom of every page of your report. Now there is another section. If I right click the page header, I can turn on the report header and footer. And this section has a report header. Anything in here will appear once and only once at the beginning of the report. And the report footer, anything you put in here will appear once and only once at the end of the last record. So not at the bottom or the top of the page, but just where the last record ends, that will be your report footer. So let's take our blank report and attach it to some data. So we need the properties. Double click where the two rulers meet here, brings up the property sheet. And under data, I can then select from the record sources drop down which of my tables or queries, if I had any, do I want to base my report on. Well, I want to base it on the customers table. I then need to change my property sheet to actually show the fields. So we go to Design on the Report Design Tools sub-ribbon and choose Add Existing Fields, and that swaps the property sheet to a field list. What I then need to do is drag the fields on that I would like. So I'd like the first name, the last name, email address, city, and number of children. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I then drag these onto my report as far to the left hand side of the detail section as I can go and let go. Now it puts them vertically, which is not how I want them laid out. I want them to be horizontal. Now what I could do is just take each of the control objects and put them horizontally one at a time and move the labels into the page header. Or I could ask Access to do that for me. I keep all the fields selected that I've just dragged onto the report. Go to Arrange and choose here from the left hand side, Tabular. One click and you'll see the fields get tidied up for me. The labels get put in the page header and the controls for the actual data get put in the details. I can then squash my detail section closer together. In fact, there's room for more fields, although the email address does need to be a bit wider. However, you can see that resizing the field has no effect whatsoever. That's because we're in this tabular layout. If I then go back to the Arrange sub-ribbon and say Remove Layout, it leaves the fields where they are, which is great, but now allows me to adjust them separately. So let's move these two fields across. You can see actually that the labels are still all stacked together. Let's undo that. Select just the labels and remove layout and try again. So these two fields, so anything that gets encompassed by you dragging across the ruler will get selected, and I can move these two fields up and then resize the address to make room. Let's see what that will look like. If I go into Home, View, Print Preview, and you can see how my data is then going to be laid out. There is more room while we're in landscape. Now, really, a report is very much like a form in the way that you build it and place fields on and make decisions, except for the fact that you cannot click in to any of these boxes. So it's not an editable item. It's meant to be an output from your data. I close the print preview, I get taken back to the design, and let's add another field because we've got room. Let's say education. This time the label doesn't get tidied up for us, but we can move that into the page header by cutting it. So Ctrl X to cut. Let's click up here and paste and move it into its correct location. And then again, print preview to see what's happening. So let's put the education on bachelor's, partial college, etc. So that's the basics of creating a report without the wizard. You simply create a new report using the Create ribbon, attach yourself to a data source of tables or queries, and then drag the fields onto the report that you wish. At some point, don't forget, you will also need to save the report. RPT, customers, all. Okay, so that's taken us through the process of creating a report from scratch, i.e. no wizard. So you've had to create the report from nothing, set the correct print size for the report, attach it to the correct data that you wish to be attached to, add the fields from the data that you wish to see, and potentially add any calculated fields that you wish to see, saving the report, and then using it in your database.